Chapter 1, Whispers on the Wind. I wasn't always alone. There was a time, long ago, when the nights didn't feel so endless, that I had someone beside me. A boy named Jasper. We were scraps of humanity once, filthy things clinging to the alleys of a crumbling city, stealing crusts of bread and hiding from the fists of the men who ruled the streets. We swore we would protect each other. That was the one promise we made under the stars, our backs pressed together in some broken, forgotten church. I kept that promise for as long as I could, but some promises are meant to be broken. The rumour found me in a forgotten tavern, deep in the folds of the countryside. The barkeep, a grizzled man with one good eye, muttered it after too much whiskey. "There's a thing in the hollow house," he said, voice slurred and thick with fear. "A boy-shaped thing, moves like smoke, smiles with a mouthful of teeth. It calls to travellers, calls them by name." I didn't ask for more details. I didn't have to. Deep down, in that old cracked place where my mortal heart once beat, I knew it was him. Jasper. The idea of it clawed at me during the long walk through the misty woods. The further I went from the tavern, the quieter the world became. Trees loomed like ancient sentinels, their skeletal branches clawing at the grey sky. No birds sang, no animals moved. It was as if the land itself held its breath, knowing what slumbered ahead. The hollow house. I saw it first as a stain against the mist, a crumbling manor, half swallowed by ivy and rot, standing alone atop a barren hill. Windows gaped like broken mouths. The roof sagged as if exhausted by the weight of so many secrets. I stopped at the edge of the field, staring up at it. Memories flooded me. Jasper's crooked smile when he won a scrap of food, his laughter when we outran the market guards, the way he used to call me Little Flea because of how fast I was. He used to laugh like the world still had a future. Like we had one. I pulled my cloak tighter around my shoulders. If the thing in that house was still Jasper, if any part of him remained, I would find it. And if he was gone? I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the cold wind sting my face. If he was gone, then I would do what had to be done, because some promises don't end with words, some are paid in blood, and tonight I was coming to collect. The hollow house groaned as I stepped across its threshold. The door, swollen with age and damp, resisted at first, then gave way with a shudder that echoed through the empty halls like a death rattle. I stood in the entryway, the heavy air pressing against my skin like wet cloth. Dust danced in lazy spirals, disturbed for the first time in decades. The floorboards creaked beneath my boots. The walls leaned inward, as if the house itself was trying to swallow me whole. I waited, listening. There were voices just at the edge of hearing, whispers tangled with the breath of the house. Faint, broken things. "Eliza, Eliza." I froze. My name floated down the corridor, soft as a lover's sigh, but twisted, wrong, scraped raw by something not entirely human. The shadows moved, not the way normal shadows flicker and stretch with the shifting light. No, these slid across the walls like slick, oily stains, pooling in corners, rising up along the crumbling plaster. I walked forward carefully, the old wooden floor snapping and groaning underfoot. My fingertips brushed the cracked walls, feeling the pulse of rot, the memory of too many lost souls trapped inside. Room after room was empty, save for decay, splintered chairs, collapsed tables, mildewed curtains hanging like tattered funeral shrouds. The voices grew louder. "You left me. You promised. Why did you leave me?" Each whisper struck like a blade to the ribs. At the end of a long, crooked hallway, I found a door leading down, half rotted, hanging by a single hinge. A narrow staircase plunged into darkness below, the The smell of damp earth and old blood wafted up, thick and cloying. I descended without hesitation. The basement was more cave than room, half carved from the stone, half dug into the earth by desperate, clawed hands. The faint light of my lantern revealed a sight that twisted my stomach. A makeshift bed hollowed into the soil, lined with scraps of cloth and bones. Tiny skulls, shattered femurs, the remains of animals, and some that might have once been human. A cold draught stirred the dust, and with it, a figure emerged from the shadows. Jasper, or what was left of him. He was smaller than I remembered, shriveled, twisted by hunger and time. His skin clung too tightly to his bones, a patchwork of bruises and scars. His eyes, once so full of mischief and stubborn hope, were black pits, deep and endless. His hair hung in greasy clumps, and his hands were more claw than flesh. When he moved, it was with an unnatural twitching, like a puppet pulled on broken strings. For a long moment, he simply stared at me, his head tilting unnaturally to one side, studying me as if trying to decide whether I was real or another ghost come to haunt him. Then he spoke, his voice a broken, hoarse whisper. "You left me." I took a slow step forward. "Jasper, I never left you. I was taken. We were both taken." He laughed, a high, brittle sound that made the hair on my arms rise. The tall man, he promised he would make us strong, make us family. His body shuddered with the force of the words. But he left. They all left. You left. Everyone leaves. The madness in his voice was sharp enough to cut. I saw it now, how he had clawed himself a hole in the earth to sleep, how he had fed on rats, on wayward travellers, on anything warm and living, to fill the void the tall man had left, alone with his hunger, alone with his guilt. Jasper staggered closer, and in the dim light, I saw his face more clearly. What was left of the boy I once loved, like a brother. The twisted smile, the cracked lips, the tears that carved dirty tracks down his cheeks. You were supposed to stay, he sobbed, voice breaking. I waited so long. I opened my mouth to speak, to offer some comfort, some mercy, but the words died on my tongue, because whatever Jasper had once been, he was not that boy anymore. He was something else now, something broken beyond repair, something that would have to be ended. The boy I remembered flickered behind Jasper's ruined face. For a few aching moments, it was as if time rolled backward, as if we were once again two filthy street kids huddled beneath broken arches, whispering dreams of stolen bread and warm beds. His dark eyes shimmered with something fragile, something human. "Eliza," he rasped, his clawed hand twitching at his side. "You came back. You found me." I took a careful step forward, my hands raised in peace. "I did," I said, my voice steady, though my heart cracked with every word. "I never wanted to leave you, Jasper. They took me. They changed us. But it's not too late." He looked at me, really looked, and for a heartbeat, I saw the boy he once was. The boy who called me Little Flea because I was faster than all of them. The boy who swore he would always protect me, even when he could barely protect himself. "I don't want to hurt you," I whispered. "I want to help you." Jasper swayed, his gaunt frame shivering under some internal storm. The madness was clawing at him, trying to drown that last flicker of boyhood. "I have friends now, Jasper. Powerful ones. Almost a family." I dared to smile, stepping closer, trying to anchor him to my voice. "There's Serana and Elder, even one called Winter. He's like nothing we've ever seen. He could help you. We could help you." For a moment, the silence between us was so deep it hurt. A flicker of hope crossed his broken face, but it didn't last. The darkness inside him twisted, black and choking, and his eyes turned wild. "Lies!" he shrieked, the sound tearing from his throat like broken glass. "You say that now, but I know what your promises mean. I know what they mean." He stumbled backward, clawing at his head, his fingers leaving deep gouges in his tangled hair. He screamed, a sound so raw it barely sounded human. "You promised to stay with me," he howled. "You promised, but you left. You all left." And then, with a feral growl, he lunged. His speed was terrifying, a flash of rags, bone, and teeth, but he had forgotten who I was. I shifted, my body dissolving into shadow, vanishing between heartbeats. The Flea. I was called that for a reason. I reformed a few feet away, crouched low, ready to move again. Though trapped forever in the body of a 10-year-old girl, I was not weak. I was an elder, turned nearly 85 years ago by the tall man himself, and while others had withered into monsters, I had survived. "Jasper, please," I said, my voice tight with grief. "This isn't you. It doesn't have to end like this. I can help you. I want to help you." But Jasper was lost, thrashing, snarling, consumed by the rotting, festering loneliness that had eaten him alive over the decades. His face twisted in rage. "No help," he spat. "No promises. No more lies." He lunged again, faster, his claws raking through the spot where I had been a second before. Dust and shattered bone scattered into the air. The house trembled with every crash and shriek. And as I moved, as I dodged the attacks of the boy I had once loved as a brother, my heart broke in ways even immortality couldn't heal. I had promised to protect him. And now I was going to have to break that promise. Final chapter, The Last Promise. "Jasper, please," I said, my voice cracking as I stepped from the shadows once more. "You're still my brother. You always will be." He froze for just a breath, hunched and snarling, wild eyes darting. "I want to save you," I whispered. "I want to bring you home." For the briefest flicker, there was something, a tremor across his ruined face, something almost like the boy he once was. But it was crushed in an instant, buried beneath the endless tide of madness that ruled him now. "You lie," Jasper spat, baring yellowed teeth. "You left me to rot, Flea, and now I'll end you." He lunged, faster and harder than before, a creature of rage and sorrow. His scream was a howl of betrayal that seemed to shake the very walls of the hollow house. "I will squash you like the flea you are." The world slowed. I let the shadows flow through me, moving with a speed and clarity honed over decades of surviving the darkness. From beneath the folds of my tattered dress, I drew a thin silver blade, a gift loaned to me by Serana, just in case, she had said, with a rare, knowing smile. I whispered his name one last time, Jasper. Then, with one swift, heartbreaking motion, I drove the blade deep into his chest. He gasped, a sound more shock than pain, and crumpled into my arms. He weighed almost nothing, just bone and memory. I lowered him to the earth gently, like a mother would lower her child to bed. "I'm sorry," I whispered, stroking his matted hair as tears blurred my vision. "I couldn't let you live like this. I had to keep my promise." I held him close as his stolen life ebbed away. "We are elders," I whispered into the empty air. "Eternal, immortal. But there is nothing eternal in madness, only endless pain." The wind howled through the broken windows. The house itself seemed to sigh. "You have taken much of me with you, Jasper," I said, rocking gently, cradling the broken body. "But one day, we will be friends again, somewhere far from all this darkness." I laid him down, closing his empty eyes, and stood. The blade slipped from my fingers and buried itself in the cold earth. I turn now to you, the one listening in the dark. You might think me a monster for what I've done. Maybe I am, but life and unlife are not weighed by the approval of the many, or by the guilt forced upon your soul by others. It is weighed only by the strength of your own heart, by the promises you make to yourself, and whether you are strong enough to keep them. I learned that from an old teacher of mine, Uncle Eldritch, we used to call him. I haven't seen him in a long time, but his words stay with me. You are the only judge of your soul, Eliza, he once told me. Stand alone or fall with the crowd. The choice is yours. I chose, and it broke me, but it was still mine to make. In this world, where monsters walk and shadows whisper, your soul must belong to you and no one else, not to promises made by frightened hearts, not to guilt, not even to love. You choose, you stand, you endure, even if it costs you everything, even if it leaves you alone. I will carry Jasper's memory with me, always, not because I owe it to him, but because I choose to. And in the end, that is all we truly are, the sum of the choices we make in the darkness when no one else is watching. Good night, old friend. Good night, my brother. And good night to you, listening in the shadows, until we meet again. End of story. This was the tale of Eliza, a story of promises, pain, and the choices we must live with in the shadows. Thank you for walking through the darkness with us. Until next time, stay close to the shadows and true to yourself.